Start by grabbing your table tent and then go to Schoology and take the metrics pretest. This is not graded, just do your best. If you don't know the answer to a question, just guess and move on. It is just a way for us teachers to see what we know before we actually begin the unit. Now that you've taken the metrics pretest, let's take some metric conversion notes. Why are metrics important?
What does the French Revolution have to do with the time NASA accidentally crashed a $200 million orbiter into the surface of Mars? Actually, everything. That crash happened due to an error in converting between two measurement systems, US customary units and their SI or metric equivalents. So what's the connection to the French Revolution? Let's explain. For the majority of recorded human history, units like the weight of a grain or the length of a hand weren't exact and varied from place to place. And different regions didn't just use varying measurements, they had completely different number systems as well. By the late Middle Ages, the Hindu-Arabic decimal system mostly replaced Roman numerals and fractions in Europe. But efforts by scholars like John Wilkins to promote standard decimal-based measures were less successful. With 250,000 different units in France alone, any widespread change would require massive disruption. And in 1789, that disruption came. The leaders of the French Revolution didn't just overthrow the monarchy, they sought to completely transform society according to the rational principles of the Enlightenment. When the new government took power, the Academy of Sciences convened to reform the system of measurements. Old standards based on arbitrary authority or local traditions were replaced with mathematical and natural relationships. For example, the meter, from the Greek word for measure, was defined as 1/10,000,000th between the equator and North Pole. And the new metric system was, in the words of the Marquis de Condorcet, for all people, for all time.
So why are metrics important? They're important so that we can have a common language to use between different scientists, different countries, and different times. This is our lovely metrics ladder. The metric system is made up of units with prefixes and base units. Our base units are in the middle, so we can see that we have base with M, L, and G. Whenever you have a base unit, it is going to be a single letter. Because we're going to notice that some of the letters are very similar, so whenever you have only one letter, you're at your base unit. So let's take a look at some of those other prefixes. We have kilo, hecto, deca, our base units, deci, centi, and milli. It's going to be important that we know what the symbols for each of those are. So kilo is K, hecto is H, deca is DA, base M, L, and G, which stand for meter, liter, and gram. We have deci, which is D, centi, which is C, and milli, which is M. The metric prefixes are based on powers of 10, so we can see that kilo is 1,000, hecto is 100, deca is 10, our base units are 1, deci is 0.1, centi is 0.01, and milli is 0.001. So to convert, it's all about just moving the decimal one place, left or right. So the distance in between kilo and hecto is 1. Between hecto and deca is also 1. Deca to base, 1. Base to deci, 1. Deci to centi, 1. And centi to milli, 1. So that's nice and easy to remember because it is all 1. So now let's take a look at how we actually use the metrics ladder for an example. So for example, convert 5M to cm. So what do we notice about our first unit? It is only one letter. So where did we say our single letter was going to be? That is going to be our base unit. So it's going to be important that we can figure out where we're starting and where we're going. So we're starting at M. So we're going to start at the base unit. And we're going to cm, So we're going to take a look at that C, where C is centi. Now that we've located where we are on our line, we need to count the number of spaces we need to move that decimal. So just count those numbers in between. We have 1, 2. So we are going to move our decimal 2 times. In which direction did we count? We started at the base and we went to centi, so we counted to the right. Now we can move our decimal. So we're going to take our original number, 5, and if you don't have a decimal to start with in the number, where does it start? It always starts at the very end. Okay, so now we said we're going to take our decimal and move it 2 to the right. So we're going to go 1, 2. What is going to go in those empty spaces? Zeros. Those are placeholders. So now we can move our decimal from where it started to the end, and we can get a final answer of 500 cm. Let's take a look at another example. Convert 1.2 km to dm. So first, let's start by figuring out where are we on our ladder. So we're going to go to km. So let's find k. K is kilo. And then we're going to go to dm. So we want to find d. So we're going to look for d by itself. All right. Now we're going to figure out how many spaces we need to move the decimal. So add up all those numbers in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, in which direction did we count? We started at kilo and we went to deci. So we went to the right. And now we get to actually move our decimal. So we take our original number, 1.2. We said we're going to move it 4 times to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. What goes in those empty spaces? Zeros. All right, so our decimal from where it was goes away. It now is at the end of our number. So our final answer, 1, 2, 0, 0, 0, D, M. Let's take a look at a couple more examples. All right, convert 9.7 m to km. So again, let's figure out where are we. So we're starting at a single letter. So where does our single letter start? It starts at the base. All right, and where are we going? We're going to km, so we're going to find the one that starts with a K. All right, and we're going to determine how many spaces are in between. So we've got 1, 2, 3. Now we need to decide which direction did we count. We started at the base and we went to kilo, so we're moving to the left. Now we actually need to move our decimal. So we're going to take our original number, 9.7, and we said we're going to move it 3 times to the left. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Now what goes in those empty spaces? Zeros. So we erase our old decimal and we put it where we said we're going to move it so that we get a final answer of 0.0097 km. Let's try one more example. Convert 34 mm to m. So again, the first thing we got to do is we need to find where we're starting. We're starting with 2 m's, so that first letter is an M. So we're going to go to M. And then we have a single M, which puts us at our base, because remember, anytime you have a single letter, You're at your base unit. Determine how many numbers are in those spaces. So we went 1, 2, 3. In which direction did we count? Well, we started at milli and we went to the base. So we're going to go to the left. And now we need to move our decimal. So we take our original number, 34. Now if you don't have a decimal in the number, where does it start? It always starts at the end if it's not already written in. Then we said we're going to move 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. What goes in that empty space? A 0. So we erase our old decimal and we put the decimal now where we said we're going to move it. So we get a final answer of 0.034 m. So as you're working on using your metrics, remember to count carefully, figure out where you're starting, where you're going, be very careful with your letters, and look closely at it. And what always goes in the empty spaces? Zeros. Alright, so what should you do now? You'll need your Chromebook to do some metrics practice. So the assignment metrics practice should just show up on your right-hand column for your due date. Okay. Otherwise, if you go to Schoology, in the scientific method and measurement folder, in the metrics folder, you have the metrics practice, the green little quiz puzzle piece. Okay, so what are you doing? You're completing the assignment on Schoology. I recommend that you retake it until you get at least a 3.5. This is going to ensure that you have a good understanding of metrics. You are able to take it unlimited times. It grades it right away, so you don't have to wait for me to grade it. When you're good, submit it on Schoology. Once you get that 3.5, then you could read, work on missing work, work on other class homework, or talk quietly with other students who are done.